I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for...
Hey guys, I know I look a little bit crazy right now. There's like a lot of glam on the eyes and then my face just looks really bare. But I decided I needed to break something down for you. I kind of skip through this a lot in my videos. As some of you guys can tell just by looking at my face, I'm very fair skinned. It's very white, it's very pale. You can see it's not that far off from my shirt, honestly. So I've had a really hard time finding contour powders that aren't too warm and finding bronzers that aren't too orange. The two products that I swear by for this are my butter bronzer in the shade Light and the contour powder in the Urban Decay Naked Skin palette. And so I'm going to use these products and just kind of go over what I do to bronze up and contour my face. And if you want to see what that looks like, go ahead and keep on watching. Alright, so the first thing I do is I put on my foundation, concealer, and powder everything up. I like applying powders on top of powders, and so I really want to make sure that everything is powdered. And so I'm going to grab a sort of fluffied angled brush. This is going to be for my bronzer. It's a little bit large. You want something that is big enough to disperse powder pretty quickly, but that is also dense enough to where it blends nicely as well. So this is my MORPHE G4 brush. It is one of their furless brushes, and that is why I chose it. So I'm going to dip right into the butter bronzer. And you want to touch really lightly, because otherwise you'll get too much color in one area, and you don't want that to happen, because that makes it a lot harder to blend out. I do bring it down my temples right here. Alright, so now that the forehead is done, you can see I have a little bit more life, add a little bit more dimension. Alright, so now we're going to go into the contours of my cheeks. There's two ways that you could easily find this on your face. One way is to make a fish face, like so this line right here that shows up when I do that. You could put the contour right in there. Or one of the ways that I do it as well is I kind of open my mouth and you can see that line there as well. You don't want to put the bronzer lower than that. A lot of times people make the mistake of putting it right here, like where the mouth opens, like that. But if you do that, it's not going to lift your cheeks up at all, and it's going to kind of sag everything down. So you want this area to be the bottom of the contour and the bottom of the bronzer. If you feel right here, you should feel a little bit of a dip from where your cheekbone is. So my cheekbone starts dipping right here. Like if you see me right here, I'm pushing into my cheekbone, but that's where you want the majority of the shadow to sit, is right here to here. You'll see as I'm going along. So I'm going to take my bronzer brush. I loaded it up with a little bit more color. Place it right here, right where the cheekbone dips a little bit, and blend it into the sides of my face back up towards the temples. And you can see it just kind of accentuates that area. The same thing to the other side. And finally, I'm going to do the same thing to my chin. So I have a longer chin than most, and it is slightly uneven, so I basically just bronze the bottom of it. It gives it a more even appearance, and once again, balances out my face. And I bring it along my jawline as well. And then if I feel really saucy, I'll put it on my neck, just on the sides. Because you want to be cohesive with your colors. If you're not cohesive with your colors, it will be really obvious that you're wearing bronzer and contour and all that stuff. So on a quick day, this will be all the color that I add, because it does give us a little bit of a contour. It's nothing too extreme, but if I'm going for a full contour, that's when I dip into the darker powder. Because I am so pale, I do not contour my forehead or my chin. I pretty much only contour my cheeks and then my nose a little bit, because if I do too much dark stuff here, I just feel like it looks overly made up. So I'm going to grab this brush right here. This is the Real Techniques Contour Duo Fiber brush. It's a little bit smaller. It fits perfectly into that cheekbone area, so it helps to really center that color right there. So I'm going to dip into that contour powder, really tap off the excess, because like I said, if I apply too much, it does look overly made up. And once again, I want to start off applying this really, really lightly to my cheeks. We're actually going to hit up that same area that the bronzer is in, and then blend it upwards really lightly. And I don't know if you could tell from this side to this side, but this side does look a lot more defined, I guess is the proper way to say that. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Start it right here really lightly and blending it upwards. And as you can see, I don't make it a straight line. I put it on an angle because my jaw is on an angle. You really want to follow the natural shape of your face. And once that is done, I'm going to take a dry beauty sponge. Any sponge will do, honestly. I like this one the best. It's by Real Techniques. It's their complexion sponge, and I like it because it has this nice fine point on the bottom part. So I dip that into some translucent powder, like so. This is the RCMA No Color Powder. And that bottom line before that you found, this one right here, I'm going to take some powder and swipe along it to emphasize that line and clean it up. This way the contour doesn't dip down too far, and when I brush it away later on, it'll end up looking a lot more natural. Now, because faces aren't actually symmetrical, sometimes this is a little bit difficult to match it up. So just do your best, and once again, try to follow your face shape as best you can and then correct after. So on this side, my cheekbone is a little bit lower than this side, but I like this side better, so I try to make this a little bit more lifted. Whatever contour powder I use for the day, that's what I add to my nose. So if I'm just doing bronzer, then I use the bronzer for my nose, and if I use a darker contour powder, I use the darker contour powder for my nose. So I'm just going to take this brush from Storybook Cosmetics. I think this is the brush that resembles Ron Weasley's wand, and as you can see, it's a little bit on the fluffy side, but it also has a nice angle. The angle is going to help really make a defined line along your nose, and the fluffiness is going to help it blend out much easier, which is something that you should be looking for. So dip into the contour powder. Once again, really tap off the excess. So I always start right here because this is the thinnest part of my nose. I just kind of brush straight up towards whatever you would call this brow bone, the center of your brow bone. And as you can see, that's just going to make that a little bit straighter. I just have a tiny bit of a bump there that I like to correct. And do the same thing on the other side. So I start at the thinnest part and then draw a line straight up. You can see on the side it looks really harsh right now. Don't worry, we will blend that out. And then you want to bring it downward a little bit on an angle, just so that it's all continuous. And I do go at the edges, and this is just for cohesiveness. Some people put it at the edges to make it look a little bit shorter, but I do it because otherwise it looks very stark and not as natural. And then for blending, you want to blend it downward. You never want to blend it all around because that's going to ruin this line that we just created. And then with a little bit of the RCMA No Color Powder, just a little bit, and this setting brush that I actually use under my eyes a lot, I'm going to go right on top with that, just to kind of shear it out a little bit. And then doing the same thing as before, I'm grabbing my RCMA No Color Powder on this complexion sponge, and I'm just going to stamp. A lot of my nose contour was trial and error. It really depends on your current nose shape and what nose shape you are trying to create. Alright, so I'll let this sit for a little bit. I'll finish off my face, so I'll be right back. Alright guys, I know this look is a little bit intense, but you can see the contour is completed, and so is the rest of my face. This look is from my Slytherin inspired look, so if you're interested in something like that, go ahead and check it out. I'll leave it in the card right up here for you. If you guys like this sort of more relaxed talk through type video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and if you like me, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.